Blog Talk Radio.
Everybody, Recruiting Animal here on April 29, 2015, April 29, 2015. The other day, I read an article about luck. It said there's 4 kinds of luck. I didn't agree with everything. I never agree with everything, but I found it interesting. So I rewrote it to suit myself, and I'm going to tell you about it now. What's the value of this? You figure it out, okay? Luck, I'll define it first, is something that happens unpredictably. It's not planned. But you can divide it, according to the article, into 4 different types. First of all, you have pure luck. That's luck you don't have to do anything to get. It just falls in your lap. One day you get a letter, a distant cousin has died, and you inherit her fortune. That is pure luck. Next comes action luck. It's still unpredictable. You're not guaranteed getting anything good, but you make it more likely by doing something yourself. For instance, you cultivate a relationship with a wealthy old relative who doesn't have any kids. There's no guarantee that she's going to leave you everything, but you increase the odds by doing so. Or you need some business, so you make a lot of cold calls. There's no guarantee you're going to get any orders, but you figure that after 100 calls, maybe you might. So now you got pure luck, action luck. The next one is knowledge luck. That's luck that depends on special knowledge. You have some information, or actually you have some knowledge. So if information happens to come your way just by chance, you can understand its value. For instance, someone refers a friend to you. Person has fantastic experience. They've been an expat in Ireland or something. They're moving back to the USA, and you know a company that could use that guy. If you didn't have expertise in that industry, you wouldn't be able to capitalize on that good fortune. Finally, ability luck. That's luck that depends on your ability to do something. You not only have to have the knowledge to recognize something good that falls in your lap, you have to be able to do something about it. For instance, if you get a good stock tip, you have to be able to raise the money to invest in it. The greatest thing in the world might come your way, but without the knowledge and ability to take advantage of it, you wouldn't be very lucky. Now, that's it. Today's guest. He just dropped in my lap. You know why? Because I post on Twitter. That is action luck, right? And if I'm really lucky, I'll be able to recognize his virtues. That's knowledge luck. And I'll know what to do with them. Ability luck on Jerry. What show is this? Jerry's not here. Jerry's not here, and I forgot to post a shout. Everybody, just hold on a second, okay? I'm gonna play it again.
The Recruiting Animal Show.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. He doesn't like me to say he's not here. He doesn't like me to say he's out fishing. You know, he wants his clients to think he's always hard at work, but he's out on Lake Erie, okay? I have a bit of a problem. I finally got a mic or a headset with a mic that comes right in front of my mouth. It gives a very good sound. I've listened in the recordings. I'm very happy. But it's funny on my ears. It's so big and clunky that I feel like someone's got a pillow over my head. I can't really hear myself. So I'm going to stop fetching and I'll introduce the guest, since I can't fight with Jerry right off. Okay. The guest told me he'd fight with me. His name is John. I don't know how you say it. Is it McAfee?
You got it. That's it.
McAfee. McAfee.
Yep, McAfee.
But it's spelled
just like the software virus.
Yeah. Okay. But that guy's kind of shady, right? He's a mental.
Well,
or something
I spent a little bit of time in Belize. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. But isn't he arrested for murder or? He's
I don't know.
Trouble. Okay, we'll move on. We're going to sing.
Moving on.
Did you practice a song?
Hey, I'm ready.
Did you practice
Bring
a
it.
song? Okay. I'll count to 3.
I got it.
We're going to do it. We're going to let it burn 4 times. Okay. 1,
All right.
2, 3. We're gonna let it
burn, burn, burn.
We're gonna let it
burn.
Come on, we're not talking about.
We got to work on our timing.
We're
that really sucks.
Let it burn. We're gonna let it burn. Come on, burn.
Yeah.
Burn. You know your partner's better. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's what he says.
Okay. So, Jeff,
I do want to be a rock star. That would be that. You know, I've got the dream jobs. One is I want to be a professional driver, closed course. Anytime you see that on those TV ads, that's what I want to do there. And then the other one is the rock star, but I can't sing, so.
Yeah, okay. So what? They can't sing, most of them either. Okay. So last week we had Jeff Chaponick from Mac Recruiters. This week we have his partner. I kind of like that, back to back. Mac, M-A-C, has 100 recruiters. And Mac, M-A-C, stands for the names of the other guys' kids.
Yeah. Matthew, Amanda, Austin, and Chanel. You bet.
Yeah, she's a pretty girl. She's like a cheerleader or something. I saw her picture online.
Yeah, she is.
And anyway, so his business was going. He had his own recruiting business. You had your recruiting business, and you decided to merge. So now you got 100 people, but you're a little different from him. You started recruiting right out of college. Am I right?
Yes.
And what did you know?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
go ahead.
Were you good?
No, I think. Well, that's the great thing about recruiting. You're on the telephone. The person that you're talking to, they don't know how old you are, and if you communicate well, if you know when to be quiet and listen and ask good questions and are okay sounding stupid every once in a while, you can figure it out pretty quickly if you're coachable. So then it's just you work hard and you get better.
Okay, your buddy had a fall off early on. Have you ever had a fall off?
Yes.
Oh, can you tell us about it? What's your most recent fall off? Last year? 10 years ago?
It's probably been 3 years that I've actually been on a desk. So that's I'll talk about the most recent fall off of someone in our office. They're going from Atlanta to.
Okay, go ahead. Talk about whatever fall off you want.
Yeah, no, I mean they're going from Atlanta to New York. They got a big raise going to New York, and then they then look at the cost of living and all of those kind of things. And we talked about that ahead of time, but it became a bigger issue as it came time to actually resign. And then when they got the counteroffer to stay, it was easier to stay. So those are painful experiences. And
no. Hold on. I don't want your sermon. I want to know what did your staff member do wrong?
Tell yourself the truth. So when you look at a candidate, and I'm making up these numbers, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but if $100,000 in Atlanta costs, is the same as $200,000 in New York, and your opportunity is going to get them to 210 in New York, maybe, then tell yourself the truth that candidate, even though the client may want them and the candidate says that they want them, is it really going to cross the line? And that's where you got to have the backup candidates.
Well, do you send in 3 candidates at a time, or do you send in any good ones as they come up?
I think the rule of threes is awesome. Rule of threes is for every job order you've got, you need to have 3 of your candidates interviewing, engaged in the process. And for every candidate that you've got interviewing, unless you've got a client with a right of first refusal, meaning you can't take them someplace else. If you've got a candidate interviewing one place, have them interviewing in 3 places.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I know you specialized in the oil and gas business. I don't know if you're still working it these days. Are you?
Yeah. As a company, we are. Yes.
Okay. No. You yourself that was one of your areas of expertise. I listened to your interview with Brandon DeShaw. I did some work in that area as well. I was looking for petroleum engineers. They were really hard to find. They were in Texas, and we had to bring them to the Marcellus Basin near Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That was really...
That's a hard sell.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't remember what I was going to ask. I can't remember what I was going to ask you about that. Anyway,
is it weird with Gary not busting in? You don't have to fight off Gary?
I need someone hurting me, stabbing me in the back. But I was going to ask you a question. It had to do with the oil and gas industry. But let me ask. It sounds like most fall-offs happen because of relocation. Am I right?
No, I think counteroffers are happening more and more. I think clients, and one of the questions that you had tossed out is about what's the cost of turnover and things like that. I know I posted a recent article on that. Yeah. But clients are figuring out that it's going to cost me money if this person leaves. So let me go ahead and pay them an extra $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000, and make sure that they leave on my timing. Okay. So I think the stats are the same. If you accept a counteroffer, it's unlikely that within a year you're still there.
Why?
No, I just think that there's a trust issue. There's you've gone to the dark side and I've bought you. There's wait a minute, why am I worth $50,000 now and I wasn't yesterday? So the candidate doesn't trust.
Why?
Okay, why is that?
Because you're on the market. You've made a move. Here's the thing. I read an article by a guy who claimed that the biggest deal to be a good recruiter is sincerity, being honest. And he said that you have to be honest with your candidates. Counteroffers are not bad things. All it means is that they really like you. They really value you. And it doesn't mean they're going to dump you as soon as they can. They need you. They're not going to dump you.
It's situation dependent. It's like the guest
let him ask,
said,
Alejandro. Let the guy ask. He's got first right. Then I'll come back to you, okay?
Go ahead.
No, I think I agree with Alejandro to a degree. I think that the counteroffer conversation, yes, you can tell the candidate, hey, this can be a benefit to you. But my question is it better to, in the beginning of my first conversation with him, it's like, hey, you're interested in having 1, 2, and 3 at your next opportunity. Have you had that conversation with your boss, and can you create that situation that you're attracted to with your current location? And that's can you work it out? And here's how you have that conversation. Go have that conversation. But if that doesn't go well, here's another opportunity that I think has the 1, 2, 3 that you're looking for that you don't have today.
Hey, any negotiation, I won't drag this out, any negotiation depends on having the other guy over a barrel. And until he's got a job offer, he doesn't have his old boss over a barrel. Alejandro, now you.
I disagree that negotiation is solely predicated on a imbalance of power. But the point that was being made about, you got to structure the deal about more than just the money, right? You got to have something to offer, because that's why counters don't work out. It's because the problems that were there to begin with are not going to go away. That's
Why not? Why not? Why not?
It's not because you want to talk about culture, you want to talk about the makeup of teams and everything else. That's the way that's the company. You can't shift everything in the company.
Anybody want to argue against these guys? There's a ton of people here. Does anybody believe that if you're unsatisfied at work, the problems can't be solved? Because I know John also has articles where he's given pep talks about if you don't like your job, here's how you manage to stay there. You can work it out. Don't you, John?
I say that it's possible to work it out. It doesn't mean that it will happen.
Okay. What was I going to ask?
And if it had worked itself out, that person wouldn't be looking anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Well, once he's got the boss, once he's got the power, like Alejandro said, then he can call some of the shots. Hey, you want to keep me? This is what we got to do. Okay. Let's move on. John says, I'll quote you. I absolutely believe that my gift is being a connector. Okay? What makes you say that?
It's just how I do life.
What does that mean?
I go to parties, and I'm talking to somebody at a party, and it just as a recruiter, it always goes to what do you do, and really my thought process as I'm having that conversation is do I know anybody that can help them, or do I know anybody that this person can help?
Yeah.
And then
And do you
as
always
the connector, it's no, not at all.
So how does that make you a gifted connector? I have the opportunity that I can help somebody.
Well, the connector is if I can help them, it's the follow up and follow through of, hey, you need to talk to this person because you guys, I think, can help each other in this way. And then here's the follow up email that says,
so being a natural connector just means like you want to help people, but you can't always. Just you're a nice person. Is that all it means?
That's yes.
Yeah, that's not. That's.
Is this not stirring up the radio? Is this not stirring up the radio show enough?
Well, you're not. I'm a connector. I just want to be nice to people. If I thought you were going to say, "Hey, man, I can help people like nobody else." Someone talks to me at a party, I'll get him a job the next day. That's a guy. You got to be able to do it. You can't just have the inspiration like I want to do it.
Yeah, but if that's where your natural inclination is, wherever you put your attention, that's what grows, right?
Okay,
so if you're thinking about doing that to begin, it's the truth.
Look,
if that's what I'm focusing on, that's what's going to happen.
You were a recruiter as soon as you got out of school. What did you not know that you had to learn in the first year? Because you thought you were pretty good right from the start. How long did it take to make your first placement?
5 months, I think.
5 months. Same as the other guy, Jeff. Okay, why did it take so long?
You don't know what you don't know. And I think that's the deal. As you become more and more effective over time, one of the questions you've got is, when do I think I got good? I was probably good, and I'll define good in a second, but I was probably good 3 years into being a recruiter. So that's back in 96, I guess.
Yeah.
Good, I'm going to define that as the client and the candidate value my opinion. Okay, you
how
can
do you
make
know they
money.
Did value? How do you know? Look what Steve Levy and he's cutting me up. Okay, what do you mean they value your opinion? Did they not value your opinion before? How did you know they didn't value your opinion?
I think it's in the beginning. You go and you introduce a candidate to a client and say, "Hey, client, I think this candidate is someone you should talk to," and then they don't talk to him.
Why not?
Okay, and then there's the question of, okay, well, why didn't you talk to him? Well, they're making too much money, or they're not making enough money, or they don't have the right experience, and that's where you learn the questions of why a candidate is either going to fit or not fit.
Okay. So where was your mistake at that time? I want to see where recruiters make mistakes. Anybody, listen, if you don't like these questions today, I'm open. Come, just start shouting better questions, okay? But where do recruiters make mistakes? Were you presenting good people, but you didn't know how to sell it to the client, or were you not really presenting the right people because you didn't know how to interview or select the right person? You had no industry knowledge. You were ignorant. Is that the problem?
I think that you don't submit enough candidates that are quality, and I think a lot of people go into the market right now, today especially, hey, I want to get as many quick candidates as I can, and the first 3 that are above the hiring line, I'm going to submit those. I would say that as a recruiter, and the ridiculous fees that we get paid, high, the value is finding that candidate and placing that candidate that woke up this morning not looking for a job, not wanting to hear from a recruiter.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where the value is, in my opinion.
I remembered what I remembered, okay?
Okay.
In the oil and gas business, I was looking for petroleum engineers, and you know what? They were hard to find. They didn't graduate, a lot of them, for a lot of years. And so how can you supply 3 of those when there's not a lot in the market? You're lucky to get one, and as soon as you get one, you want to present them to the client. Am I right or wrong about that?
No, I think absolutely you're right. If you can only find one, you submit that one. I'd like to have 3, but if there's only one to find, based on the requirements of the client and what the client is willing to pay, all of those factors that go into saying here's a submittable candidate. Submittable candidate is someone that's interested, qualified, and hireable. The guy lives in Texas. He doesn't want to move to Pennsylvania. That's not someone I can submit to Pennsylvania.
Right.
The guy says, I'd love the job, but I'm in Texas and I can't relocate.
Yeah, I understand that. You don't have to tell me 3 times, okay? Now, look,
Sorry.
Do you think the recruiter has to be able to tell the candidate why it will be a good move for her career? Because obviously, when you got out of high school or university and you became a recruiter, you didn't know why it would be a good move for her career, did you?
No.
So do you think a recruiter has to be able to do it?
I'm sorry, say that again.
does a recruit? You know what? I have to confess. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I didn't get back to sleep. That's why I'm forgetting what I'm saying. So I'm going to tell you again. Maybe I'm not expressing myself well. Do you think that a good recruiter has to be able to tell the candidate why this job is going to be a good move for her career?
I think it's helpful, yes.
Helpful, yes.
Now,
is it necessary? Because it takes a lot of knowledge of a profession and the market to be able to tell someone what they should do.
I think that if there's 10 deals that are out there, 20% are going to happen no matter how good or bad I am. 20% are going to happen or not going to happen no matter how good I am. It's the 60% that's in the middle, that knowledge that you gain that gives you the ability to influence the outcome.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you didn't answer the question. Too bad. Maybe you don't like that one. I'll move.
No. I mean, the question is if I have knowledge, am I going to be better? Yes, I'm going to be better. But that doesn't mean that I can't make placements through volume.
Yeah. Okay. But is it generally the case that a good recruiter can tell the candidate, yes, you should make this move?
Telling the candidate I don't think is ever going to be helpful. I think sharing with them, hey, here's what you said in the beginning when we first talked, and you said this is what I want.
Okay.
When you point them back to, you said you wanted these things, here's how I think this opportunity gives you what you said you wanted.
Okay, that's kind of like a psychological counselor. You do the active listening and you just play it back to them. Is there any time when the recruiter is actually a career professional and can say, look, I know your industry. You're making a mistake if you don't take this job?
I think that, yes, you can say that, but you better be right.
Okay, let's move on. Anybody else? There's tons of people. Anybody else want to ask a question? Anybody want to ask a question? I never let anybody else talk, I hear. Anybody else want to talk? No. Okay. We'll move on.
It's me and you, animal.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. When you were the owner of a Bassman Kaye franchise, your website says that you were consistently producing revenues over $1 million annually. Was that you or your team?
Both, and I'll explain it this way. Yes, I was an owner of Kaye Bassman International, KBIC. At the time, we were the largest franchise of all of the MRI franchises. I was one of about 20 owners. Bob Bassman and Jeff Kaye, they were the majority owners and therefore had control. Yes, I had an ownership percentage. So there's answering that question. Consistently producing over $1 million. Yeah, I was doing that. For myself, it was typically me and a team, and the team was probably 4 to 6 people. It varied over the years. As a producer, as a solo producer with me and a part-time researcher working with me, my best years were probably 750. But then I built teams.
Part-time researcher? What does that mean exactly?
30 hours a week is what she worked.
And what did she do?
And all she did is she sourced candidates for the positions that I went and got.
Now, I heard you. I did listen to your other interview. You said everybody in your business, pretty well, is on LinkedIn. Is that right?
I would encourage that. I don't know that that's completely followed through with everybody, but they should be.
Okay. No, actually, you said almost everybody is there, and the people who aren't there, you get by referrals from people who you talk to via LinkedIn. So you kind of said to Brandon that LinkedIn is the only sourcing tool you need. Am I right about that?
I think that's too strong of a statement.
Well, too bad I didn't copy that interview and play it back to you, but I listened this morning, so that's what you said. So,
all right.
What are your other sources? Sorry, I have to keep myself focused. I told you I'm sleepy.
Okay, so fine. Yes, I would go first to LinkedIn. I'm going to find a candidate on LinkedIn, and then I'm going to talk to that candidate in their company, and I'm going to ask questions like, "Hey, you're one of how many?" Or you're ranked.
They're going to tell you.
They're going to tell you. And they're going to say, "Well, I'm ranked number 4." Okay, great. So who's number 1? What is it that they do? And I try and gain names that way. So you're number 4. How many are on the team? Well, there's 10 of us. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the next call, I'm going to call in and talk to somebody else that may be one of those 10, and I'm going to try and find out who's number 6, and then you find out who's number 2. And this is the work that goes into making a successful recruiter. It's not easy. It's not complicated, but you just got to call back and you try and build out the list, and over time, you're going to figure out who the 10 are.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you have the real power, in my opinion.
Okay, well, actually, you just got to call Maureen Sheriff, and she'll tell you in 5 minutes. The team structure, that interests me. So it was just you and the researcher, and so what were you doing? Were you doing business development and recruiting, or just one or the other, just the recruiting?
I talk about it this way. There's 3 things that we do as recruiters. You've got marketing to get clients, recruiting to get candidates, and then somebody's running the deal. Now, a solo desk recruiter is having to do all 3 of those.
Yeah.
As you build a team, so in that scenario, when I was doing 750 with my partner Stacy, I was doing all the business development, and I was running all of the deals. Stacy would recruit the candidates and submit a candidate to me saying, this candidate's interested. I would take it from there, confirm, hey, candidate, this is the opportunity. Is that what you heard from Stacy? Yes. Here's the understanding that I've got about your background, and then I put them together, and I drive the interviewing process and manage the egos and expectations of the clients and the candidates until the job gets filled.
Okay,
That's
so you were really doing, I just want to straighten this, you were really doing business development and client relationship. She was doing the recruiting because she actually did the initial screen. She just didn't do name generation. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So is that a good, or is it better to actually have 3 people, one doing the business development and the ongoing management of the client relationship, one doing just name gen and the other doing the recruiting?
Every situation is going to be different. The people and the personnel and their talents and their interest, the type of work that they want to do. Stacy, my partner, she absolutely could have done business development. She could have run deals. She didn't want to. She wanted to go to work, find the candidates, hut the ball, and be done. She didn't want to deal with stuff at night. She didn't want to have any of those kind of conversations, which was fine. But some as you look at building teams, and as we've got a bunch of recruiters in a bunch of different scenarios, it depends on what the people want to do, the type of activity that excites them in their career. I only want to be a recruiter, or I'm only good enough to be a recruiter today, but I want to work towards being able to manage clients and secure job orders and things like that.
Have you ever had any dry spells? What's the longest one? What's the longest one?
I had 2 W-2s north of 250 one year. So one year, the next year was the same deal. It was 250 one year, 252 another year. The next year it was 24. That sucked.
Unbelievable.
Okay, and it's one of those things that the market that you're in. We talk about market mastery, and I think you're more effective if you're doing one thing. That was real estate. I was doing real estate hard and heavy, and then the market blew up and it went to 0. So I had to reboot and go do something else.
And how hard is that to switch industries? What's market mastery?
Well,
you gave me a question for you. What's market mastery?
Market mastery at the time, if I'm doing real estate and I'm working with real estate investment firms and I'm placing acquisition, asset management, property management people in Dallas or in Houston, and those are the only people that I'm talking to, it doesn't take me very long to be very effective because I know people. Okay, if I'm placing a CFO at a hospital today, a chief operating officer at a real estate company tomorrow, an oil and gas engineer in Pennsylvania the next day, that's hard. Market mastery is you're doing the same thing over and over and over, and those conversations are going to lead you to more quickly being in a position to influence what happens.
So you don't endorse the idea of a generalist recruiter, really. A niche recruiter is the way to go to make big money. Is that right?
I think that you can absolutely make money as a generalist, and I think that that's fine. That's just not how I did it.
How could you answer that when you just told me a second ago that you want to have market mastery? A generalist doesn't have market mastery. They know the general rules of doing a search, and they say, I can do any search for you. It doesn't matter. You're saying it's really good to know tons of people in the business before the search even starts, right?
Okay. All right, yeah. If you're asking me a question, I would say that it's easier, in my opinion, to be effective as a market master. Okay.
Anybody got a question for John McAfee? Before I proceed, I got tons of questions.
Are you driving the agency that way, or you've got specific verticals and you design teams with market mastery in mind?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And yes, I would say that we do drive teams with market mastery in mind. Our investment banking practice, our IT practice, our healthcare practice, I think that it's good for them to focus in those areas. It doesn't mean that there's not overlap. We have supply chain that goes to all industries. So that's where we have, we do internal splits and things like that, because if I'm a hospital person and I'm placing hospital CFOs and hospital revenue cycle and people like that, and then I've got a hospital system that's got a VP of supply chain, that's not to say that I can't do it. And it's not to say that I won't work on it, but it also makes sense for me to bring in someone from the supply chain practice that all they're doing every day is talking to VPs of supply chain.
So you're saying it increases your penetration with clients to have the team set up that way?
I think you can get there faster.
Okay. Let me talk to Michael Cox. He's saying, if this guy's the partner of last week's guest, why not ask the agency owner questions that everybody wanted to hear last week? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I copied all the answers, the questions that they had, and I sent them to that guy, and I booked them for another show. I said, these are the questions. I'm going to let them ask you them next time. So Jerry and Rebecca can ask all those questions when Jeff comes back. This time I'll ask my questions. Is it okay? And I keep saying, I know you're on the line. If you got a question you want to know, ask them. Speak up. Don't complain to me on Twitter, okay?
Well, it's one of my ways to complain.
Yeah, okay,
Sorry.
well, here you are.
Yes, you can ask all the questions you want, but you're going to hear the same complaints at the end of the show.
No, there's no after show.
Okay, then you're not going to hear the complaints.
Yeah, that weasel who called in last week, I don't know if he's here this week anyway. Anyway, okay.
So ask me a question.
You want me to ask you a question? You said on your website that you're growing your dream of what a search firm should be. That sort of implies that you've never worked in a firm that was the way you think a firm should be. Am I right about that?
No, I think that's too strong of a statement. I think I've had great firm experiences. I'm now doing it by myself.
So it's
my
just
partner,
that's just
Jeff.
the normal pap you read on every marketing, and all marketing literature. The website says you're growing your dream of what a search firm should be. I don't know. It says to me that
don't you think that I would understand what my dream is based on the positive experiences and the negative experiences I've had with other firms?
What negatives do you want to ban? What negatives do you want to get rid of in your firm? To avoid. We can move on if you don't like that question. You said you'd like to fight with me. You said you want to fight with me. I'm giving you an
I'm not trying to fight.
Okay?
No, I don't have the specifics. I don't have the specifics that I think you're looking for. I think what I want in the dream firm is I want a whole bunch of owners that act like owners, that are practice leaders, that act like practice leaders, that make it their business to do great work, and I'm in support of them. I want to do that. I want to remove the barriers that prevent people from being unsuccessful.
And what
are
it's a
hard
they?
thing.
What are those barriers? What are those barriers?
People. Hey, I'm growing. I want to grow my team. I need somebody else to join my team. Getting that solo recruiter that has by nature a selfish. You want the hard charger. You want the driver. You want the ego that says, I'm Big Billy Badass. But then when they want someone to join their team, you've got to get them to flip it over to where, hey, if you want someone on your team, if they're just going to be your grunt doing all the stuff that you don't want to do, that's not going to be long-term successful for both of you. So you've got to have the mentality of, my job is to help you, whoever is on my team.
Got a story?
I want to help you. I want to help you grow your business.
Got a story about it that won't put you in hot water with anybody in your firm right now? No,
sure. Well, I'll talk about someone that I worked with in the past. Guy's name is Brian. Here's a guy that was selling cars, making $110,000 a year. He was the top salesperson at his firm, and he started selling cars to a couple of my partners. And he's seeing these partners that are making all this money, and he's just like, okay, if this knucklehead can do it, I can do it. So he joined our firm, and he basically came and said, I want you to teach me how to do that. I want to make that kind of money, and I think I'm good enough to do it. His first 12 months in the business, every Saturday morning, he was doing insurance in the Northeast. This was before LinkedIn. He was doing insurance in the Northeast every Saturday morning from 6 a.m. until noon for a year. He called into these companies, his client companies or the target companies in his world, and he mined their voicemail systems and gathered all the names. And then the rest of the week, he spent calling and finding out who it was, whether it's VP of underwriting, whether it's VP of claims, whether it's a secretary. Okay, he figured out over the year who did what. The next year, so the first 12 months, he made $65,000. The next 12 months, he made $250,000. Because you got to go in and you got to. This is market mastery. He knew everybody in the space, which now makes it easier for when they say, I need a VP of claims, he's able to go talk to all of VP of claims because he's talked with them before. Now he's got something legitimate to talk with them about versus, hey, I'm in the industry, this is who I am, this is what I do, what do you do? He got a lot of people that just hung up on him, you're wasting my time. Next call, and so on. So, I don't know, did that answer your question?
No, but I forgot what I asked you anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah,
I saw that Jeremy Roberts is announced that he's here, and he used to work for you, a pop of the past. Jeremy,
hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
What's up, John? How are you, man?
Man, I'm really good.
Good to hear your voice.
You got a tough question for him? Got a tough question for him?
I don't, man. I know how this guy thinks. I learned a lot from him. So
okay.
I'm enjoying listening to you two together. So
okay,
I will
great.
say he's one of the one of the more ethical. He's got a very strong.
What does that mean? That's what, Jeremy. That's one of the questions. That's one of the questions I'm going to ask. There's a Stacy Dawkins. I guess that's the Stacy you worked with, or maybe it's not Stacy. It's Mike Krowicki or something like that. No, Mike. Somebody said you have a lot of business ethics. You've got a lot of integrity. Is that not common? Jeremy is honesty and integrity.
No, it's not. I mean, is that a surprise to any of you guys?
Yeah, kind of.
Business. Well,
you agree with that, John? Do you agree with Jeremy that integrity or honesty is not common in the recruiting business?
No, I think it's out there a lot, but I also think that there's a whole bunch of guys that are out there that are just trying to make a deal. And it's all about the transaction. You talked last week with Jeff about transactions and relationships, and is it one or the other? It's the relationship doesn't happen unless you have the transaction. The relationship is allowed to happen and develop because you've got multiple transactions that are allowing you to be successful for the client and making the client's business better. Because you found them those key people that they didn't have.
Sleepy. I'm sleepy, and you're trying to confuse me with the transaction makes the relationship, makes the transaction. I don't know what you're talking about, okay?
You're supposed to remember stuff that you talked about last week, dude. Come on.
Are there a lot of recruiters who are dishonest, okay? Because this other guy says that you don't oversell, which implies that the other recruiters he's spoken to oversell, okay? Do a lot of recruiters oversell? Mike Krowicki says you don't oversell the job or the candidate. He's got to have a reason for saying that.
I think the answer is as I'm going and talking with candidates and clients, regardless of which one, I tell them, here's the reasons why I think this is a good fit for you. Now, as you go into those conversations, the interviews, here's the things that, based on what you're telling me you're interested in, candidate, or the things that you're not interested in, here's some questions, or here's some reasons why you might not like this job. Explore that in the interview, and you're either going to feel comfortable or you're not. Mm-hmm. But here's some things based on my information.
Hold on, please. You just answered. I didn't mean to be rude, okay? You just answered. I'm out of control. You answered a question that I asked you 10 minutes ago because you just said you call somebody up and you'll say to them, I got a job that's really a good move for you. So you do that, right?
I would do that if, based on what they've told me they're looking for, I see a fit.
Okay, you surveyed what they want first. Okay, I missed it. Stacy Dawkins says you have an amazing ability to bring two parties together. Okay, the trust he earns allows him to bring together a client and candidate that should be together. How do you build trust?
Just what I said. You're transparent in terms of, hey, here's the things I like about this job for you, not for me, but for you. And here's the things that might not be a fit for you. Let's explore that, and you talk about it. And I think that when you do that and you basically give someone and create the space where someone can say no and it's okay, it makes it easier for them to say yes.
Okay, so you're not
if
a hard
I'm a recruiter. Yeah, if I'm a recruiter coming in doing the hard sell for someone, I'm just like, hey man, I've got this great job. You need to want this, and you need to like this. And they're just like, you don't know jack about me.
Yeah,
okay?
He's absolutely
person,
right.
The walls go up, and they're defensive, and they don't want to tell you how much money they make. They don't want to tell you that their kid has got special needs, and that's why relocation is the issue.
Okay.
If they don't trust you, you're not going to get that stuff.
Okay. You gave this Brandon DeShaw. Sorry, I thought it was a decent interview, so I want to refer back to it. You gave him your cold call script for recruiting. Essentially, sounds like you leave voicemails. Am I right about that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And your script is, I call it a script, but standard line. I have a specific project dealing with XYZ. I couldn't make out exactly what you said. With some position in the industry. If I have a specific project dealing with XYZ, and I believe, based on your background, that you can help me. Please call me at this number or send me an email, and let's begin to communicate about the issue. Is that your voicemail?
That's pretty close to it, yeah.
Yeah. Now, that's so bland. How do you what kind of return call rate do you get on that?
Well, I think it goes back to market mastery. If they're hearing from me on a regular basis, if they're seeing LinkedIn posts on a regular basis, if they're seeing emails that I send on a regular basis to where they know the types of positions that I'm working on and they're at their level or above where they want to go in their career, those are the voicemails where those are the people I'm calling. And I'm just like, hey, I'm in the industry. This is what I do. And the first call, it's not as impactful. The 10th call, it's very impactful. It's like, all right, this guy's around. I'm going to pay attention. So now when I call and say, listen, dude, I know we've not talked. I've seen your information. I'm looking at your profile on LinkedIn, and I think that there's an opportunity that you'd like to hear about. Give me a call. Let me steal 2 minutes, give you some details, and then we'll figure out where we go from there. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Why do you ask for help?
And they'll choose to call or not.
How many times will you call back?
Back in the day when it was just me and Stacy, it was probably, again, if I know they're a fit and I just need them to hear me, it could be 10 times.
Well, but would you leave voicemails every time?
Whether it's a voicemail or an email or calling the secretary at a time where I know that the person's just left for a meeting and saying, hey, let me catch him on the road. What's his cell phone number? And pretending and acting like I deserve to have that information, and you get it a lot of times. And then you call the candidate on the phone, on his cell phone, and this was, back in the day when not everybody had cell phones posted everywhere, and you get them all live on the phone. They're just like, how'd you get this number? And you kind of joke through it. It's like, I'm a recruiter. I know everything. And you kind of laugh it off, but now you're talking. Okay.
And so when the person calls you back, then what do you say? Because you're building trust. I want to understand your trust-building process.
Hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do. These are the kind of people that I recruit. Here's the specific position that I'm working on. Here's what the job is, and I spend very little time talking about job descriptions kind of stuff. And most of the conversation is the person that can do this job would want to do it because of here's the why. Here's why the person that can do the job is going to be interested. The boss is amazing. The company's growing really quickly. Here's this project. The last person just got promoted. The person before that just got, all of whatever the sell is for the job. It's not a job description. But I give them a little bit of information in 2 minutes and say, listen, I know that there's a ton more for us to talk about, but on the surface, is this something for us to pursue? Yeah, no, I'm not interested in that. Okay, great. What's the kind of thing that you'd be interested in? Or what kind of positions do you have? Or, who do you know that I should be talking to that can do this? Whether they're interested or not, I don't care. Who can do it? Who else can I network with? And the first time, second time, third time, maybe they're not responsive. But as I'm consistently showing up in the industry as I want to be an ongoing resource to those in my network, let me know how I can help you.
So you really think strategically, long term. That's your target, right? First time you call a guy, you don't really expect very much. Am I right about that?
I hope, but no, I don't expect a lot.
Okay. And you don't try to rebut people who say, no, I'm not interested in that, right? You don't try to talk them into reconsidering.
The term I use is you want to stay in the game. I'm not interested. Okay, great. Tell me about your company. What's going on? How long have you been there? And I try and gain some information And then there's the back and forth that goes on throughout that conversation, trying to stay on. It's not to say that no one's hung up on me. I've been hung up on plenty of times. But you stay in the game and you break down the walls of, hey, I'm a recruiter trying to recruit them to something, and they don't want to be recruited. Hey, I've got this job. I'm not interested. Okay, tell me about what you're doing. How can I help you in the future? What are the kind of positions that would be attractive to you? And then they start talking about the kind of positions that would be attractive to them. I give myself a little bit of opportunity to earn some trust. And then I'm able to say, you know what, maybe I screwed up in how I positioned this opportunity on the front side. Based on what you're telling me, I really think that this could be a fit. Let's pursue it, and let's talk about it a little bit more. Let me give you some more information because maybe I did it wrong. Fall on your sword, and then go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm interested in what you're saying. It's great.
No, so you fall on your sword, and you're just like, hey, man, sorry, I screwed up. I didn't say that right. Here's why, based on what you're telling me, I think that you fit this job. Let's explore it some more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What if the first thing they say is how much?
Said, is it all about money? Say, okay, well, yeah, money's going to be on the list, no doubt. My guess, inside the box, and realize there's always outside the box, but inside the box is I expect the base salary to be 1 to 120. You got a target bonus of 20%. There's all the benefits and stuff like that, but I've also seen this client, again, market mastery. If I've made a bunch of placements with that client, I know what kind of wiggle room I've got. And I try and stay in the game. But if the guy's making 200 and the job is a 120 job, he's not hireable. He might be interested. He might be qualified, but he's not hireable.
Okay, but you'll answer his question about money right away. You don't try to deflect it. Say, look, money's important, but it's not the most important thing to discuss first. You don't say that and try to push it back till later on. Am I right about that?
I depending on the situation. Yes, I would try and push it back, but I am going to give the answer probably in that call. It may not be within the first 10 seconds. I'm really going to try not to do that because I really do feel if you give too much information, it makes it easy for the candidate to self-select themselves out.
Because I kind of like the way you were saying, fall on your sword, be open, and talking about money when they want to talk about money, rather than coming across as a salesman and say, putting that aside, I want to talk to you about what I want to talk about. I find those two things maybe contradict each other a bit. You know what I'm saying?
We contradict each other all the time.
Not me.
In our business. Okay.
You're contradicting yourself. I like your principle of give him what he wants. Don't fight with him. And now you're saying kind of, yeah, I will. I'll put he wants to know about money. I don't want to tell him about money right away. So you've got a bit of friction between the two of you that is not going to build trust.
So I may have one client that I know that the money sucks. So I've got to sell the job more, or the location more, or something else. And if I lead off with bad money, I know that I'm going to lose my candidate. Okay, but on the other side,
you can move into the other. Then you move into your gear. Like, well, what's going to interest you? You told me that's your next move, right?
That's true.
Okay, then you go to referrals. Let's say you told us how you ask for them. I don't know anybody. What do you do? Just say okay, or do you say, look, I know you do?
I would say if I say okay, I would then go to something else with the intention of trying to gain some other information to then come back to, hey, how many people are on your team? Who's the person that just most recently left your organization? Did you know that they were looking before they left? Okay, is there anybody else that you know that could do this job, whether they're interested or not? And, so I'll try again. And there's all sorts of different ways that you come about it. And it's, there's all these tricks, and 20 years of doing it, there's some tricks. And
what you just saw, I like the way I like the way you're talking about being open. Now you're telling a few more subtle moves, I guess. But at the beginning, you're just incredibly just straight with the person, right? You don't try to manipulate them at all. Maybe that's what people are talking about when they say you've got integrity, and that's how you're building trust. Am I right about that? I
would agree with that.
Okay. Now, have you ever liked somebody on paper and rejected them after you meet them? Do you meet with people very often?
When I was doing local Dallas real estate, I met a lot of candidates. And, you're always looking for fit with candidate and client and stuff like that. Rarely did I blow somebody out of the water because they didn't look right. It's happened. I had a physician that I was trying to place in internal medicine doc in Texarkana, and I met the guy on the plane I met him in Dallas coming off the plane, and I mean, he just looked ridiculous. He had a toupee that was flopping all over the place, and I mean, it wasn't going to be a fit. And you call the client and you say, listen, here's what's coming. I'm sorry. I screened him. His credentials were great, but he's socially awkward. He's whatever. And you tell him, it's like, I'm sorry. That's all you can say. We didn't have Skype. We didn't have Skype back then.
Sorry,
Mike.
Our toupee is a protected class now.
That toupee is a protected class. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. How did you reject the candidate? Did you? What you were talking just a minute ago? That's what you told the client. Am I right about that, or did you tell the candidate?
I said, client, the candidate's on his way. His credentials are great. He might be a super fit for you. I don't know that the presentation is going to be what you want. And they talked with the candidate, and it wasn't, and it didn't work out.
And so what did you say to the candidate after that?
It didn't work out. I'm sorry, it wasn't the right fit. Let's move on to the next opportunity. And I didn't represent the candidate. I didn't represent the candidate again.
Okay, but you're not going to tell them exactly. Your toupee is sloppy, and you're poorly dressed and stuff like that. You didn't tell them any of that stuff.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
How long ago was that?
Say that again.
How long ago was that?
This was probably 95 or 96, somewhere in there.
What are you doing these days? Of the past few years, what are you focused on? Do you still run a full desk?
No, I don't. No, all of my efforts right now is focused on growing the company and practice development and dealing with the wonderful egos that are all over this place, which is what you want to have. But it's herding cats, man.
How large is your office in Dallas?
What do we have in here? 50? I'm guessing.
Why did you? Just curious. Why did you make the move to merge with Mac?
Okay, no, that's a great question. I was with Kaye Bassman for a bunch of years. Left Kaye Bassman in 2010. Was doing some real estate, so that was my night job. So I went to focus on that, and I did something out of the industry, and then came back into the industry, started my own firm, and I was at my house by myself. And you do that once, and you realize I need people. I was finding every reason on the planet to not work. And Jeff lives in the neighborhood with me. His kid, my kid are friends. We've known each other for 10 years or so, and we kept bumping into each other at Starbucks and the car wash, and there just was an opportunity for us to do a deal together, and we started working together a little bit in 2011 and partnered up officially in 2012.
Let me ask you a question, Mike.
Let's grow something bigger and better.
Mike can still continue, but you sound like a very disciplined professional person. How come you couldn't work on your own well? Okay,
maybe
that's
that's
not a good question.
I don't know. I couldn't do it.
That was surprising to me. Mike, do you have any more questions? Mike is the director of recruiting.
I was more interested in what he's doing now. What are the challenges that he's facing?
Well, what about? Why don't you ask him? He said he herds cats, controls egos. Do you have a story that you could explain what that means? No. Okay.
No, I don't. Not on the top of my head. No, I don't.
Well, what would you say the most important thing to contribute to growth has been for you?
It's the whole mentality as an owner of the company that no one works for me, I work for them. That's the mentality. Granted, when you've got a brand new recruiter that doesn't know how to be a recruiter, yeah, in the beginning they work with you because you're telling them and you're teaching them how to do it well. Once they've got it and they're doing it well, you absolutely, as an owner of a firm, have to flip the switch that says, okay, you're no longer working for me, I'm working for you. So
can you give examples of things that you do that are after you flip that switch? What are some of the barriers that you're removing? How is it that you serve the recruiter? What value are you bringing now?
Yeah, no, and that's the right question to ask as an owner, because think about if our commission scale is 50% and someone's making generating $300,000 in revenue, they're paying me $150,000 for the privilege of working here. Think about it when they're at 600. Okay, so from that perspective, I've got to earn it. So it's yes, it's all the back office stuff that makes it easy for the producer to focus on candidate and client conversations. The other things about training the team and recruiting the team that's going to work with them, the business development trips, going with them to a business development trip when they may be good at it, but I promise you 2 people are better than 1 in a business development face-to-face meeting. It also gives credibility.
Why? What do you mean by that?
I think it's better. Not to say that you can't do it by yourself. I did a lot of them by myself. If when I was just beginning to build my practice, if the owner of my company had been with me, I think that would have been beneficial. Not to say that I wasn't successful by myself.
Okay, but it's the fact that it's
better.
The owner, not just another person to share the responsibility and keep the conversation going. Is that the key?
Again, I think an owner is best.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We do the same thing with new reps or people that have been here for 5 or 6 years. Sometimes it's just nice having an extra set of eyes to, in our field, to see what kind of equipment they have, software that they're using, while one of the individuals is leading the conversation at that particular moment.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier for credibility, and with credibility comes trust.
Okay. How many of your recruiters, I guess, that are in your section of the business are at that level? You're talking about 300,000, 600,000. I'm curious as to the makeup of the I guess average recruiter. How many? What would you call average biller within your organization, and how many people?
You're thinking of going outside, Mike? Well, let me ask him. There's no time. Let me ask the last question, okay? Because you can come back again too. I like these guys, but and you know what? I always make a mistake about asking people about their marketing stuff. I'm interested, but it doesn't get a good response. It's the stuff that's on LinkedIn, their recommendations. But there's a guy named Greg Savage. He's in Australia. He's a very famous guy down there. He says our business is no longer all about sales. It's about marketing. That means branding, SEO, CRM, social, automated, and digital engagement. Recruiters should invest more in time in marketing, including branding and social activity, than they do in old school hardcore sales. Do you agree with that?
I don't.
No?
That doesn't mean that brand. So I'll answer you this way, and Jeff said it last week. You got to talk to people. Conversation is where it's at. Now, good, better, best is something that I use. If you've got an exchange or a conversation going on via email, text, or LinkedIn or Twitter or something like that, okay, fine, that's good. You can make a placement. Liz in our office made a placement 2 weeks ago. First time she talked with the candidate was when she extended the offer. All of the other communication was via text. So it can happen, but I think better is on the phone, best is face-to-face. That's where you've got the ability to read the subtle, they responded one way, and that made you ask a different question. And
can I
response.
Interrupt and qualify something? Had she worked with this person before, and that's why she was able to do that via text, or did she open the relationship via text messaging?
I don't think that she had talked with. I don't think that she had worked with him before. Now I don't know. I don't know where in terms of was the
that's a good story.
That's a good question. Maybe the first question, and I don't know the answer. Maybe the first conversation was the initial conversation, and then it progressed, and all the details and all of the driving of the process happened via text. So maybe she talked with him twice. So maybe I missed.
She's worked with him, 2 years ago. I've done that. I'll text somebody who I worked with or I placed with, and I say, "Give me your resume right now," and we do everything via text. We don't need to talk.
In that situation with Liz, I don't think that that's what happened, but it certainly could have.
Okay, let me just switch back to finish off with Greg, and there's another guy, Kevin Wheeler. I don't know if you've heard about him. He talks in this vein as well. Greg is saying, he says, we're looking to build inbound client inquiries generated via digital engagement. However, most recruiters are still approaching client development 1999 style with cold calling and mass mailing. And then Kevin Wheeler says over 80% of the skills that made a recruiter successful in 2010, just 5 years ago, are of less value today. For example, interviewing skills, traditional search, and reviewing and screening of resumes. They're not critical skills. Ability to build an online relationship, to create a social network, or enhance an employment brand are more useful skills. Are you into this kind of marketing orientation?
Yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think, yes, you want to do all of those things because the tools and the resources are out there, but it's absolutely, in my opinion, supplemental. I am not going to build my business and count on the revenue that I need to come in by somebody calling in with a job order. Yes, I'll take it when it happens, but I'm going to be very proactive and still do the old school recruiting of picking up the phone and calling and talking to clients saying, I'm the guy that can help you fill this position. Let me.
All I got to say is you can make a living doing exactly what was taught by MRI in 1985. You can make a living doing exactly that and nothing more. If you just sit there and advertise jobs, you won't make a living. So I think that what Kevin and them are saying, I agree with a lot of what Kevin says. If you're with a large corporation, you need to work on your inbound marketing. But as a third-party search professional, you can make a living without a computer. You cannot do that the other way around. There's no way.
Okay. And on that happy note, we got to end.
And I like
John?
technology. And I like technology. So,
John, maybe you'd like to come back sometime, but I'm out of time now. Thanks for coming on.
No, that sounds good. I'd love to. Anytime.
Okay. Bye-bye!